Welcome to On the Cutting Room Floor. I'm your host, John Begany. Tonight, we're honoring two local filmmakers who have won the 1997 Rosebud Film and Video Awards. For the past 8 years, Rosebud has honored local filmmakers for their excellence. And tonight we're honored to have Farzan Illich, who did a film called Roots of Rebellion, Theo Smith, producer of The Way It Is, and executive director of the Rosebud Film and Video Awards, Natasha Reatig. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Natasha, we'll start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about the Rosebud Awards?
Yes, I'd be delighted to. That's why I'm here. The Rosebud Awards was founded in 1991. We are an all-volunteer group of people who are looking to bring attention to the vast quality and quantity of excellent work that is produced in the capital area. Our festival honors work that is unusual, experimental, innovative, or deeply personal. We're not trying to be an Academy Awards, and we're not looking for excellence per se. The excellence has to be contained in works that come from the heart, that are deeply personal works, that are where the art and heart of the filmmaker is evident in the work. We are an annual competition. The deadline is January the 18th. We have a selection process that is conducted by an ever-changing selected jury, so that Rosebud members do not participate in the judging. And then we have a series of showcases that take place. The first is a nominee showcase, followed by an awards ceremony, and then a winner showcase after that. So the idea of the awards was to provide in developing the competition and the awards ceremony, we were following the success of the Washington Area Music Awards and the Helen Hayes Awards, which have had, I think, great success in bringing attention to those two art fields, and it's about time that our film and video producers got the same kind of attention, because they deserve it and more.
And you've seen the attention grow through the past 8 years.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, our attendance has grown constantly every year, and we are, the more criticism and attention we get, the more we know we are succeeding out there.
I know people this year that tried to attend some of the screenings and were unable to because the crowds were so great.
Right.
Anything that you can say to these people that didn't get a chance to see?
Well, yeah, they will have an opportunity. Of course, it's always wonderful to see the works when they are fresh and in competition and during our season. However, part of our job is to showcase these films, is to give people an opportunity to have the work that they've put their heart and soul into seen. And so, following the initial showcases, we do our best to have a number of other ones. And coming up on September the 4th in Baltimore, at the Baltimore Museum of Art, all of the nominated films will be shown. And then again on October the 27th at the National Theater, they have a series of Free Monday for the Arts series. On that day, we will have a series of some of the Rosebud videos. And right here on this channel, sometime in the fall, we hope to show all of the nominated works. We provide tapes to all of the area cable TV stations, and they do usually a series of in 3 weeks, 2 hours a week of the Rosebud Nominee Awards Showcase. So stay tuned to Channel 33, and you can see all the Rosebud Award nominees.
Great. Well, tonight we have 2 of the 97 winners, like I said. And how many people each year submit entries?
We get approximately 150 entries a year. This year we had, I think, about 140. And there are 20 works that are nominated from among that group. From the 20, there are 5 that are winners and others that are honorable mentions. These 2 works were nominated. Were nominees.
And as you said, there are no categories.
There are no categories. The only criteria are that they be innovative, experimental, unusual, and deeply personal. And our judges are asked basically to select a a showcase that will best give the general public an idea of the range and quality of work that is being created in our area. And these two films I wanted to bring here today because they represent the kind of work that we have always liked, and that is work that focuses on DC and that probes into the heart of matters. And God knows there are a lot of matters that need attention in DC, so I'm very grateful that we're focusing on these two works particularly today.
Well, let's talk to Farzan. Farzan, you did a piece which I thought was excellent, Roots of Rebellion, which chronicles some of the Adams Morgan and Mount Pleasant riots from 1991. And could you tell us a little bit about your film?
Well, this film has been in the works for the past 5 years. This was the third piece that I had in Rosebud, and I think Rosebud has been instrumental to my career as an institution, because without the recognition we couldn't have got the kind of support that we did get to continue the work.
Sure.
There was a piece that won the Rosebud in 1992, which was a 16-minute piece called District of Chaos, which was a sort of direct take on what happened in the streets. It was produced with Miguel Moreno at the time, and I felt that the events were so important that needed a much more extensive piece to look at the context and the contextual issues, which unfortunately weren't really dealt with as much in the mainstream media, and really left a lot of questions unanswered, even though there was a lot of coverage, gavel to gavel, around the clock coverage of the events. There was very little about the history that led to the event. I think it's the same with the much larger explosion in Los Angeles. And even to date, we haven't had public affairs programming that looks in depth into the causes of these explosions, which unfortunately may leave the conditions to such a situation where it could happen again in future.
Sure, sure. And you used news footage?
This was a collection of footage that I had come across. We shot some of the footage during the disturbances, and we gathered additional footage, both archival and television footage, for the larger piece.
Wasn't it true somebody knocked on your door in the middle of the night during the during the disturbance, and you grabbed your camera?
That sounds very romantic. We were in the editing room, and we had a phone call saying that, don't you know what's going on in your neighborhood? And then we turned on the television, and then we ran out with a camcorder and did some interviews in the street, and then the following 2 days we went out and shot more stuff.
So, and what else? The other thing that I really liked about your piece was that it does look at historical perspectives on the causes of the riot, and you really dive into those.
Well, it was something that was very close to me. The film is almost, to some extent, autobiographical, because since early 80s, I was very much involved in what was called the Solidarity Movement. And at school, at American University, we organized around issues of U.S. involvement in Central America. And in '82, we had a guerrilla theater that is in the piece, which I was one of the actors in. So a lot of the history is what I was somewhat involved with in the United States as a activist. So, and a resident of Mount Pleasant, Adams Morgan area for the past 15 years, in a way I could see this coming. And the tensions a lot of times coming almost to the point of explosion. And the policies that led to it, I mean, it was something that I was closely aware of. So it was really putting together this sequence of events for an audience which may not have been as closely involved in.
What impact has the Rosebud Award had on your career?
Well, the first time we had, tried to get some funding for doing a larger project on this question, and one of the places we had applied, I heard from somebody who was in the meeting, and they said, "Well, why should we give these people money? Who are they?" And then the Rosebud thing happened, and then we resubmitted.
Everybody's giving you money.
Well, not I wouldn't go that far, but just enough so that we could continue, doing research and development, which is the most important aspect of it. I mean, to keep the project alive. You may not need all that money, but you need something to keep things going. And so the next time when it was submitted after the Rosebud, then we got some support. And basically, when you start, and you have to get some attention on the local level before you can build the track record and go farther on national or international level. And I think that's why it's critical to have this kind of event happening for people to get the encouragement and to get the support that they need to move along with their career.
And the important thing is that I hope in many cases it manages to provide enough additional income and support so that people can stay here in our town and continue to produce work. That they're not all looking to hop on the next bus to Hollywood or New York, because this is a town that can support excellence in film and video, and does. And the more we bring attention to the people who are working and doing that, the greater the opportunity is to continue to create this community, to grow the community. And allow people to remain in their home where we need them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, why don't we take a look at a clip from your film? Could you tell us a little bit about what we're going to see?
Well, these are just some interviews looking at very different perspectives on the event that is sort of looking back at the event a few years later. And I think we're going to look at three very different perspectives. So then we can talk more about it.
Okay, very good. This is a clip from Farzan's film, Roots of Rebellion.
The first riot that we had here was the people in the neighborhood venting their anger on authority for what they felt were slights to them. They didn't touch people's private homes. They didn't touch, cars. Everything that they damaged, that they set out to damage, was city property. And I'm not saying that's right, but I have to give them a lot of credit for that.
But again, you had a huge supply of wildly intoxicated individuals coming in for what looked to be a large-scale wilding and a good time for a lot of these folks who I think were otherwise somewhat bored.
But a significant number of people involved are guerrillas. And I don't mean guerrilla in some kind of a racist fashion. I mean a guerrilla who was trained in Central America to fight wars in urban and jungle settings, and who fled their countries after being trained.
There are reports of violence spilling over into black neighborhoods. Rioters are said to be shouting obscenities at blacks and Latinos. A man is quoted as saying, these people had it coming to them. I'm sick of their nagging, but mostly it is their fault. All these black and these Latins, that we get a bad rap for not knowing how to dance. If I could, I'd put them all in a blender and get rid of all of them.
And I said, look at all of those black youngsters out there. There are not that many Afro-Latinos living in that community. Those are African-American youngsters, if you will, indigenous to Washington, D.C. There were white youngsters out there. So that was not a race riot. That was a rebellion against restrictive policies, not having proper social policies for people to lead more wholesome lives. It was frustration.
Que somos hispanos, somos sospechosos, nos andan registrando si por qué ni para qué. Tirándonos al suelo.
Nosotros no tenemos pena, no hay delito. Nosotros no tenemos necesidad de venir acá. No hay un delito. Nosotros por la guerra, pero ¿quién mantiene la guerra en El Salvador? El gobierno de acá nos manda ayuda. La guerrilla en El Salvador ya habrá ganado ya hace tiempo. Acá en este país solo hay guerrilleros y soldados. Los soldados han sido guerrilleros. 12 años.
Eso es lo que hace la policía. Lo ve a uno parado, alumbrarle la cara, como que si uno estuviera robando. Si nosotros somos personas que trabajamos. Y el peor policía es el policía mismo latino, que es el que debía de ayudarnos. En primer lugar, cuando nosotros hablamos con ellos ya no hablan español, hablan en inglés.
There are legitimate grievances that have not been addressed in the Latino community for a long time, and they have concerns as basic as their legal status. They are undocumented workers, not illegal aliens. That is an insult to them. E.T. was an alien. They are human beings. Many of them driven here by our Central American policies, for example.
1981, El Salvador. An intense civil war is raging. In the decade of the 1980s, 70,000 people lost their lives in this conflict. The majority of them were non-combatant civilians. For the Salvadorian government, no distinction was made between the ordinary people and the opposition fighters.
Alrighty, we're back. It was a great clip, wonderful piece. We're moving on to Theo Smith, the producer of The Way It Is. Yet another piece about the Adams Morgan area, very different. Theo, tell us about your film.
Okay, well, there's a lot. Like Farzine, it was a film that took place over many years, and a film that kind of just started as a community project. A couple. There's a teen center on Fuller Street that a friend of mine, myself, Joe Lewis, who's also a filmmaker, writer, we started to kind of hang out there and wanted to kind of see what we could do with kids. And there was a lot of there in the group, the age group that we worked with were like 13 to 17, and during that time it's kind of a lot of kind of life transition and kind of making decisions about kind of like how they're going to kind of be in the world and what direction they're going to go in. Seemed real pivotal to the group that we were working with, and so we just kind of start to hang out and talk to them about making a film. And originally it was supposed to be a music video. They just wanted to do some. They have also the same group of guys had a go-go band, and so they were thinking about doing just a music video. And we encouraged them to maybe we could have meetings around what type of thing we might want to do, and it evolved into a we want to write a film about kind of what goes on for us, and they call it The Way It Is. Kind of like wanted to kind of show for them what life is like on Fuller Street and the kind of the stuff that they deal with.
Well, the first part of the film, you actually document the process of going through the brainstorming sessions and the idea sessions, and that's all very interesting. How involved were these kids? You said they're between how old and how old?
13. Our youngest guy was 13 and the oldest guy was 17. very engaged in terms of, that was just I mean, the film is kind of a byproduct of what actually went on. What really went on was hours and hours and hours of talking about images that they saw of themselves, kind of like how to break out of that kind of you know, one of the slogans was "Deal, Die, or Lorton," which was, you know, that none of them, I mean, it was kind of we had a two-track thing going in there. There were some kids who were, you know, very overachiever type kids who were, I'm going to get out, I'm going to go to school, and then there were other kids who were their friends that grew up in the same block who had no sense of what it was that they were going to be or become, or if they were going to be or become. And so we really kind of had to deal with those two realities of life there. And so it was really a struggle to keep people on board, not have it be corny. I mean, that was a thing. They don't want it to sell out. They don't want to represent this thing that's not them. At the same time, you know, I mean,
because there's the one kid and he's really positive and he's like, well, I don't want to make a film about guns or drugs or stereotypes, you know, and then but then the final product is about guns and drugs, and so I guess that kid lost out.
Right. It was like how do we? I mean, I think the win in that situation was that there was an individual who was having a positive kind of, you know, there was an individual within the group who was breaking out, but they didn't. I guess the struggle was all along was how to tell the story realistically and in their view, what's really happening. And you know, I think that part of as a learning process for the mentors who were working with the kids, we pushed them as far as we thought we could, and to keep them engaged and to keep the process moving. I think that as a criticism of that process, I think that there could have been more kind of pushing. I think that process we could have taken another, you know, 6 months or whatever. We would have come out with something totally different, or maybe not something totally different, or a different type of film, or a different spin. Or I mean, I guess what I feel now is that we were in that process of trying to keeping the momentum going. We were wanting to feel like we could make something and do this activity with them at the same time, learn from all that we had learned in that 3 years or whatever, and have some representation on the screen of what we had learned. And I think the film is, I mean, I think there's a for me, I kind of know what all went on. I think that in the end result, it raises a lot of questions, and I you know, and every time all the moms and the family, we had a big showing the month after it was done, and they all came and loved it, you know, but it was also a time where people could kind of talk about what was going on. I think it's a film that raises a lot of questions.
Sure, it does. So actually, the story was written by four kids. 4 kids.
Yes.
You know, story ideas, and then 2 scripted. Actually, did the scripts.
Right. And so we were just helping them. I mean, that was the amazing thing, to see them take the process and say, I think part of the other struggle was that we were actually serious about doing this thing, and that you know, building up that trust level where people could kind of say what was on their mind, and kind of they're going to really go with what we say is what the real deal is, the way it is, and they're going to support us, basically help us to have our voice be heard. And that was another kind of layer of this film process, is that we were really trying to encourage them to basically reinterpret their reality, and to try to present that to people from the outside who could maybe hear and see and maybe give them some insight. We also had a parallel program going on with women. These were all guys.
Right.
We had a parallel program going on with women. It was very different. You know, I mean, I think that there was a lot of lessons learned. You know, I think that project like that could go on in every community. because it really helps, I think, demystify the filmmaking process some, in terms of helping, giving young people and people who don't know anything about what it takes to make a film, but to turn their life into a screenplay or turn their,
So from start to end, it took how many years?
We started meeting with them in 1991.
Year for the idea?
Well, yeah. I mean, we shot a little something like a year, 2 years after we shot a little like video thing, and they responded to that and were very negative about what we shot, and said that story was kind of representative of two guys kind of wrote that story, and this is not representative of all of us. And as you see in the clip or in the film, that they responded to a piece that we cut originally. Then it took us about 2.5 years to raise more money, and then we edited it, and we were finished.
Well, why don't we go to that clip? Okay. This is what we're going to see.
Okay. This is actually the beginning of our meetings and kind of figuring out what we wanted to do.
Okay. Let's go to that clip.
Boys Night production was put together by a group of teens out of our Teen Learning Center right here on 17th and Fuller Street. And we meet once a week in the festival center right there on Columbia Road, the corner. And what we basically try to do there is try to put together our script for our film the way it is.
First Boys Night we had was in early September. And the first meeting was, it wasn't a meeting at all. Kids, we had, 35 kids show up. We were trying to serve them pizza, and fights broke out, and nobody wanted to listen to it. There was nothing. And then when I said nothing, it was nothing. We handed out an agenda amidst the mayhem. The mentors kind of like did a guerrilla movement and handed out these agendas to kids. And so just really posing questions, really basic questions. What kind of film do we want to make? How are we going to govern ourselves? And why is governing ourselves important?
But excuse me, I think when the people giving their opinion, nobody else should be able to talk or give another opinion to
That's already a rule. That's already a rule. You're talking anyway.
That's all really people want to see is black people making movies about drugs, killing each other. I had some ideas about how the movie should go, like we could be in another situation or another activity.
All I was saying is from the jump, the movie was about people, they selling drugs, but they are positive people. They're selling drugs because they have to, not because they want to.
Because you'll do now. Know about the difficulties at home. Seeing some of your buddies that do sell drugs and do a lot of the crazy things. Y'all don't feel like want to get with it, but you want what they got, so you figure you got to do what they do to get it. And then the guys like ourselves, your mentors, and try to help you all to see that there is another out. But there is, it takes you guys to figure it out.
Pretty much from the beginning, I've always felt that my basic feeling is that their behavior dictates whether we can make this piece or not. No matter how much I can bring to the table, no matter how much any of the other mentors can bring to the table in terms of advice or technical expertise, it doesn't make a difference if they aren't willing to put their backs into the effort to make it. One of the good things during the production was that it did kind of in a way separate the men from the boys. I got a clear sense of who was interested in putting out the work and who wasn't.